Welcome back to Rocky Watches Movies. Today we're diving into the intense world of Deliverance, the 1972 thriller that pulled audiences into a gripping tale of survival against the forces of nature and human terror. Directed by John Boorman and starring Jon Voight, Burt Reynolds, Ned Beatty and Ronny Cox, this film is iconic for its haunting scenes, stunning locations and unforgettable moments. But there's also a treasure chest of juicy behind-the-scenes information you might not know. So grab a paddle and let's explore 20 things you never knew about Deliverance. James Dickey, who wrote the novel and screenplay, insisted that Deliverance was based on his own life. When he met Boorman for the first time, he leaned over and whispered, "I'm going to tell you something. I've never told another living soul. Everything in that book happened to me." Although this dramatic claim intrigued Boorman, it quickly became clear that Dickey's life was less dangerous than he suggested, especially when he nearly capsized a canoe during filming. Dickey's biographer called Boorman after the author had died and revealed he wasn't even the fighter pilot he claimed to be, but was a radar operator-navigator with a fighter squadron during World War II and the Korean War. While on set, Dickey's eccentric, over-the-top nature led to frequent arguments and tension, especially as he insisted on sharing his survival advice with the cast and crew. The characters in Deliverance represent different facets of Dickey's own personality. Ed's adman background mirrored Dickey's own professional experience, while Lewis's rugged survivalism embodied Dickey's imagined self as a tough outdoorsman. Drew's sensitivity represented Dickey's artistic side, while Bobby's brashness reflected some of Dickey's more aggressive traits. Early on in development, roles were offered to Marlon Brando, Charlton Heston, Jack Nicholson and Donald Sutherland. All four declined, some citing the film's dark subject matter, while others, like Sutherland, simply weren't interested in a project that would be shot mostly in the wilderness. Because of a very tight budget, Boorman had to go with lesser-known actors anyway. And talking of the tight budget, it was made for around $2 million. And to save costs, the actors were asked to perform nearly all of their own stunts. This included navigating the perilous rapids, canoeing, and even scaling cliffs without safety equipment. One of the most intense scenes involved Jon Voight climbing a rock face without the use of a harness, nets, or doubles. Boorman firmly believed in realism, saying, "If a shot is dangerous enough to need a stuntman, then you shouldn't be doing it at all." Though the cast was nervous, they embraced the challenge of delivering some of the most adrenaline-pumping moments. But even for this film, some stunts seemed too risky, including a scene where Burt Reynolds' character Lewis goes over a waterfall. Boorman originally planned to use a dummy, but Reynolds thought it looked unconvincing and volunteered to perform the stunt himself. Despite his enthusiasm, Reynolds ended up with a broken coccyx from the impact, and when he asked Boorman how it looked, Boorman dryly replied, "Like a dummy going over a waterfall." Director Boorman's 6-year-old son Charlie had a cameo as Jon Voight's on-screen son, marking his film debut. Charlie would go on to act in Excalibur and The Emerald Forest, both directed by his father. Today, Charlie is best known for his travel documentaries with Ewan McGregor, chronicling their global motorcycle trips. Writer Dickey himself also appears briefly in the film, playing the sheriff. If you're enjoying the video, a subscribe to the channel would be like a trip downriver with legends. Reynolds' now infamous nude photo shoot for Cosmopolitan magazine was released just before Deliverance hit cinemas, leading to some scandal. Though Deliverance was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, Best Picture, Best Director and Best Film Editing, it didn't win any, missing out on Best Picture to The Godfather and to Cabaret and the other 2 categories. Reynolds has since blamed this on the magazine spread. He believed the Academy was put off by the risque shoot and was hesitant to award a film associated with such controversy. While Deliverance is often remembered for the dueling banjo song, Warner Brothers originally didn't credit its composer, Arthur "Guitar Boogie" Smith. He successfully sued for credit and royalties, making it a landmark case in music copyright. The song's popularity was so immense that he was even presented with a gold record, which was later stolen from his home by a Dublin criminal, Martin Cahill. Ironically, Boorman would eventually make a film about Cahill's life, The General, in which Jon Voight co-starred, even reenacting the record theft. Much of Deliverance was shot on location in Georgia and the Carolinas, with Boorman opting for authenticity by using real locals as extras. One of these locals was Billy Redden, who played the banjo-playing boy Lonnie. Redden couldn't actually play the banjo, so Boorman brought in another child to perform off-camera, hiding behind Redden's arm. Boorman has said that Billy was actually quite bright, but because of the way he looked, he was treated as retarded by the community. Writer James Dickey's intense personality sometimes made him difficult to work with, particularly when he clashed with Boorman over his script revisions. When Boorman cut the first 19 pages, Dickey reportedly lost his temper, leading to an altercation that ended with Dickey allegedly breaking Boorman's nose and a few of his teeth. Dickey was finally kicked off the set for this and the way the author bothered the actors. He did return for his cameo as the sheriff, though. The line, "squeal like a pig," is one of the most chilling moments in Deliverance, and was actually improvised on set. It wasn't part of the original script, and accounts vary on who came up with it. Some claim it was Ned Beatty himself, while Boorman credits a crew member for the idea. Originally intended as a cleaner substitute for TV broadcasts, the line was deemed so disturbing it was left in the theatrical version, becoming one of the film's most quoted phrases. And for the infamous assault scene, Bill McKinney, who played Mountain Man, worked hard to make Ned Beatty genuinely uncomfortable, staring him down on set to create real tension. The method acting approach worked, and Beatty admitting to feeling genuine fear around McKinney, lending the scene its disturbing authenticity. McKinney reportedly took this advice from Bruce Dern, who suggested that making Beatty afraid would enhance the scene. One of the film's most striking scenes is when Lewis kills Mountain Man. Actor Bill McKinney had tremendous discipline and control of his body. He held his breath and kept his eyes from blinking for 2 minutes. He trained himself specially for this shot. Boorman marvelled at McKinney's dedication, which also involved the actor being buried in dirt. This was no small feat, especially in the pre-CGI era, and Boorman has joked about adding a note in future movies: no computer was used in the making of this film. At the time, the section of the Chattooga River used for filming was graded as one of the most dangerous stretches of river in the US, known for its powerful and treacherous currents. The film's popularity inadvertently turned the river into a hotspot for adventure seekers, many of whom underestimated its danger. Tragically, several people drowned attempting the same rapids that the cast navigated in the film. The cast and crew also endured a number of terrifying near misses, especially when Ned Beatty was swept into a whirlpool. He was under for over 30 seconds before being rescued by a quick-thinking production assistant. Beatty later recalled his panic, but joked that Boorman probably would have found a way to finish the film without me if he hadn't made it. Deliverance is often hailed as one of the greatest, if not the definitive, man versus nature survival thriller. The film captures how ordinary city men quickly become overwhelmed when confronted with nature at its most unforgiving. Director John Boorman was concerned the Chattooga River, though dangerous, appeared too pretty on screen. To address this, he decided to desaturate the film's colours, creating a pale, washed-out look that made the natural setting feel bleaker and far less inviting. To capture the realism of the wilderness, Boorman hired Vilmos Zsigmond as director of photography, who earned a reputation for filming war zones including the Soviet invasion of Hungary in 1956. His experience contributed to the raw and intense look of Deliverance. He later won an Oscar for Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but he cited Deliverance as one of his most challenging and fulfilling projects. On most major films, when a director yells action, a sizable crew stands just out of frame, ready to adjust anything in an instant. But for many scenes in Deliverance, shot right on the Chattooga River, this wasn't possible. In scenes where actors Jon Voight, Burt Reynolds, Ned Beatty and Ronnie Cox were canoeing downstream, John Boorman and cinematographer Zsigmond rafted ahead in a rubber dinghy. The crew would assist with setup, then meet them downstream once they had captured the shots they needed. An alternate ending was shot in which Ed imagined himself, Lewis and Bobby meeting the sheriff, who's discovered a body and shows it to them. The twist is that Ed wakes up before the identity is revealed, leaving viewers unsure of whom it is. The body was played by Christopher Dickey, James Dickey's 20-year-old son, who would go on to be a journalist for Newsweek and The Washington Post, and wrote a memoir, Summer of Deliverance, exploring his relationship with his father and his experiences on set. The nightmare at the end of the film, where Ed sees a hand rising from the water, inspired Borman's friend, fellow director Brian De Palma's ending for Carrie. In Carrie, the hand of the titular character bursts from her grave in a similar horror twist, cementing a trope that would later become widely imitated in horror films. And there you have it, folks. You now know a little bit more about Deliverance. If you enjoyed the video, which I presume you did as you got this far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos coming to Rocky Watches Movies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.